Wake up in the grind, clock ticking, 20 minutes flat, freedom main-handed, knives built with.
What is up? Welcome back to another episode of the 20-Minute Freedom Project. I am Josh Lopez, and this show is for those who want ownership, discipline, freedom, and to build a life that they've always wanted, one that is earned and not handed to them. And today's topic is the Rule of 100. It's the non-negotiable daily standard that separates those who build from those who drift. I want to start with something that happened to me a few years ago. I was going through a stretch where I was working hard, or at least I told myself I was, putting in the effort, staying busy, and at the end of every week, I'd look back at the results, and they didn't match the effort. And I kept telling myself the same story. This week just got away from me. Next week, I will lock in. Next week, I will really push. Does that sound familiar in any way of your life? I wasn't building. I was performing. I was doing a lot of things, but I wasn't doing the right things every single day. And the moment I truly understood the difference, everything just seemed to come together perfectly. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are like the weather. They change consistently without any regard for your schedule or your goals. Those who act when they are motivated and rest when they are not will produce results as inconsistent as their emotional state or the weather. Some weeks you will be on fire and everything will work just perfectly. Most weeks you'll be waiting for that fire to return. And that is a trap that many of us fall into. And most never see it because they're too busy looking to feel motivated to notice that it is not working. So I'm sure you've heard of the Rule of 100, but let's clarify the Rule of 100. At its core, it's this: commit to 100 units of focused effort every single day towards the thing you are building. Not when you feel like it, not when the stars are aligned, every day, no matter how you feel. Now, 100 units can look very different depending on where you are and what you're building. For some, the Rule of 100 might be 100 minutes of deep, focused, uninterrupted work on your most important priority every single day. For others, it might look like 100 actions of some kind, maybe 100 outreach messages, 100 sales calls every day for 100 days straight. And then for others, it might be 100 days of commitment, choosing one keystone behavior, one daily action that will change the domain of your life and executing it every day for 100 days without exception. Massive, consistent daily action applied to one thing long enough for it to compound. And before we get into the science of compounding, I want to talk about something that almost nobody mentions when they talk about the building of new standards. It is the first 20 hours. Josh Kaufman, in his research on skill acquisition, found that the biggest drop in difficulty and the steepest improvement in anything that you are doing, learning, or building happens within the first 20 hours. Not the first 1,000 hours, the first 20 hours. And here's why this matters to you. Most people quit before they reach those 20 hours. They start something, a new training program, a new business habit, daily discipline. And within the first few days, when it's hardest and the results are most invisible, they decide that it's not working. So they quit. They call it a lack of talent. They call it bad timing. They call it not being ready. Or I'm just not cut out for this. What it actually is, though, is quitting before the curve breaks. Think about the 5 areas of your life: your body, your faith, your being, your bond, and your build. Every single one of them has a first 20 hours, and every single one of them feels the same way inside of it. Hard, uncomfortable, like it's not working. In your body, your first 20 hours of consistent training are the hardest for your body, and you will feel it. Your muscles are sore, your schedule is disrupted, your brain is fighting for is just all around fighting the pattern, looking for any excuse or way to stop. But after those first 20 hours, your body starts to adapt a little bit. The resistance drops. The pain starts to subside a little bit. You see minute improvements in the mirror, in your energy, and how you carry yourself. The body was never the problem. It just needed you to outlast the resistance. In your faith, the first 20 hours of a new prayer discipline, new scripture practice, a new morning routine built around your faith will have the feeling of mechanical at first, like you're going through the motions, like the words just are not landing. But something shifts after those first 20 hours of showing up anyway. The practice starts to feel a little bit like an obligation and more like foundation, less like a task you just check off, and more like a thing that holds everything else together. The connection was always there. You just had to show up long enough to start feeling it in your being. The first 20 hours of doing inner work are the most disorienting. Sitting down to read when your mind would rather be scrolling, opening a book that challenges you in how you think instead of confirming what you actually already believe, journaling when you don't know what to write, starting with that blank page in front of you and realize that you haven't sat with your own thoughts longer than you would like to admit. Studying men, the frameworks, the principles that are supposed to change how you see yourself, and wonder why it doesn't feel like it's clicking just yet. It feels slow. It feels like you're consuming a lot and producing very, very little. But after those first 20 hours of showing up and doing it anyway, it starts to feel easier. The ideas that felt so abstract in the beginning start to land differently. The pages you read start to sound less like information and more like permission. Permission to become the person that you already knew that you were supposed to become. The old narratives lose a little bit of their grip. The new identity starts to feel less like a performance and more like truth. The person you are becoming starts to feel more real than the person you've been. In your bond, your first 20 hours of showing up differently are the most uncomfortable. Having the conversations that you've been avoiding, being intentional instead of being reactive, leading instead of just existing in the house or being part of that Fen group. It's awkward at first. It feels forced. The people around you don't know what to do with the new version of you because they're so used to the old version of you. Your partner is waiting to see if you actually stick to this. Your kids are watching without really saying anything. But after those 20 hours of consistent new behavior, the dynamic starts to shift. Trust starts to build. The relationship starts to move in the right direction. And the people that matter most start to feel the difference before you say anything. And in your build, the first 20 hours of outreach, of content creation, of building something from nothing feels completely thankless. You don't have any responses yet. You don't have any traction, no validation. The concepts you're learning haven't fully clicked yet. The results aren't there to prove that it is working. But those 20 hours are doing something invisible. They're building the neural pathways, the systems, the momentum that everything after is going to build on. The market doesn't reward the first hour. Hell, it doesn't reward the first 20 hours. It rewards those who show up through all 20 and keep going no matter how hard it gets, stay consistent, and push through no matter what. In every single area of your life, the most critical battle is getting through those first 20 hours. Not the first 100 days, not the first month, the first 20 hours. Because if you can get through those, if you can outlast the resistance, the awkwardness, the silence, the soreness, the mechanical feeling, the thankless grind, the curve starts to break. And the person you are on the other side of that curve is not the same person that started. You must get through the first 20 hours, and then the next 20 hours, and then the next. The rule of 100 is what gets you there because it removes the negotiation. It says, you don't decide today whether this is working. You execute. And you let 100 days tell you the story. Now I want to take a minute and talk about the math. Because when you see it, you'll change how you think about the actions you take on a daily basis. Darren Hardy wrote a book, and that book's called The Compound Effect. The way he laid it out made me stop and start to reevaluate everything. And you might have heard this in different ways from different people. If you improve just 1% per day, you are 37 times better at the end of a year. Now you might be like, okay, wait, 1% better for 365 days is 365% better. But you're missing the compounding effect. So if you consistently get better 1% every single day for an entire year, and you compound that day after day, you will become 37 times better than you were when you started. Because those small gains build on previous progress. They just don't add, they multiply. But the problem is, it's also the reverse. Someone who allows themselves to decline 1% per day ends the year pretty much at zero. This is why the daily standards matter so much. Not because any single day is life-changing, but because the direction of your daily action determines everything over time. Behaviors repeated consistently in the same context eventually became automatic. The brain literally rewires itself, builds stronger pathways for what you do consistently. And it starts overriding the other paths that you want to abandon. What that means is that in the early days, especially in those first 20 hours, your 100 units require willpower, the most finite, unreliable source that you have. Because as the repetition compounds, it becomes automatic. The internal negotiation disappears, the resistance drops, and eventually, not doing the 100 units feels wrong, like you're skipping a meal. You've crossed from discipline into identity. And that's where the rule becomes truly powerful. Daily, consistent, non-negotiable action. That is the game. Daily effort works like a farmer's field. You don't plant in January and harvest in February. There is a season of showing up to the field when it looks like nothing is happening, because the work is underground. A few simple disciplines practiced every single day lead to great achievements that are gained slowly over time. Simple, not glamorous, not dramatic. But here's the flip side of that. A few errors in judgment repeated every day will lead to disaster. Your daily actions aren't neutral. They're either seeds or they're weeds. Every day you skip those 100 units, you're not standing still. You're planting something. And what you're planting is the seeds of distance. The distance between where you are now and the life that you want. Picture a flywheel for a second. One of those massive industrial wheels that take enormous effort to get moving. At first, it's grinding. Every push feels like it's costing everything you have to move the wheel. But you keep pushing. And somewhere around day 20, day 30, day 40, the wheel starts to turn on its own. Your pushes are feeding off the momentum of the previous ones. That's what sustained action builds. Here's the thing about a flywheel. You start missing days. The wheel slows, and eventually it completely stops. And now you're back at the beginning, back to grinding, just to gain momentum again. The rule of 100 is what keeps your hand on that wheel every single day, regardless of how you feel. Most people quit in this exact moment. They're closest to the breakthrough, but they're not seeing any results yet. Say you're in a desert and you need to dig a well. And so you're going to start drilling for one. Say you've been drilling for a week. Your arms are tired. Your back hurts. You can't see water anywhere. And so you start to think that maybe this is not a good idea. There's nothing down there. So you stop. And unbeknownst to you, 3 feet down of where you stopped is the water you're looking for. And there is a man who picks up where you left off. And he hits water almost immediately. And from the outside, it looks like luck, but it is not luck. Don't be that person. The person who drills the hard part and quits before the water comes. That's like someone without a standard. If you know anything about boats, all boats have an anchor of some kind. And say you're out on the water and some weather shows up. That weather could be stress, distraction, bad news, hard conversation. Your whole day is at the mercy of this weather. You wake up irritable, so the day is irritable. Something goes sideways at work, so the whole afternoon is gone. That anchor on that boat is your standard. Someone without a standard is at the mercy of that weather. But the one with a standard, he's got his anchor in the water. The weather can still show up. The storm will still come, but he doesn't drift. He's not at the mercy of the weather because his 100 units don't move. They're not negotiated daily on his mood. They're a fixed point where everything else is built from. That's what the standard actually is. Not a goal that you're working towards. An anchor that you will never pull up. You will never change your life until you change something you do daily. Not something that you do when you feel like it. Not something you do in seasons. Not something that you do when life cooperates and is perfect. Or when you're motivated. Something you do daily. Something that you do no matter how you feel. We all want there to be some kind of secret, some edge, some shortcut that the guys who made it found and we haven't discovered yet. But the secret is the boring thing. It's showing up to your 100 units on the day you feel great, the day you feel like garbage, the day that nothing is going right, and on the day that you question everything. Same action, every day, no exceptions. The compound effect doesn't care how talented you are. It doesn't care how smart your strategy is. It doesn't care about your potential. It responds to only one thing: what you did today. Okay, let me give you 3 ways to actually run this, because I know some of you are actually asking, Josh, what does 100 actions actually look like for me? That's a good question, and it can look different for everybody. So let's break it down into 3 frameworks. Framework 1, the 100 minutes. This is the most universal version. 100 minutes of focused, uninterrupted, deep work on your most important priority every single day. Not 100 minutes of busy work, not 100 minutes of emails, not 100 minutes of meetings, and definitely not 100 minutes of admin. 100 minutes of creation, development, output directed by the thing that you are building towards. Here's the test for this one. If you can't find 100 minutes of your most important work, you don't have a time problem. You have a priority problem. And the priority problem is a values problem. You need to solve it at the root. Picture your front yard. There's a landscape bed right by the driveway. And growing out of it is a weed, ugly, out of place. Every single day you pull up, you see it and you think, man, I really need to take care of that thing. So one day you've had enough. You walk into the garage, grab a machete, walk over, cut the weed off, clean at the dirt. Done, problem solved, right? Except a week later, you pull up in the driveway and there it is. That same weed. It's back, like it never left. And here's why. You dealt with what you could see, but the root? The root never moved. That's what's happening when you say you don't have time for the most important work in your life. You keep chopping at the surface, rearranging your schedule, downloading another productivity app, trying a new morning routine. But the root's still there. And that root is this. You haven't decided that this thing actually is the priority. Until you pull the root, until you make it a real decision about what matters most, that weed will keep coming back. Every week, same spot, same eyesore. So before you define your 100 minutes, ask yourself honestly, do I actually believe this is the most important thing I could be doing right now? Because if you do, you will find the time. And if you don't, no system in the world is going to fix that for you. Framework 2, the 100-day commitment. Choose one keystone behavior, one daily action that, if performed consistently for 100 days, will fundamentally change the domain of your life. Then execute it every single day for 100 days, without exception. Before your head hits the pillow at night, you must get it done. No excuses, no negotiation, no days off. And you might ask, why does it actually have to be 100 days? Because the research shows that there's a shift neurologically from willpower to a new identity behavior. And that happens between day 66 and about 254, depending on the complexity and the consistency. 100 days puts you right in the middle of that window, long enough to see real results, long enough to feel the shift. The question to ask yourself is this: if I did this one thing every day for the next 100 days, what would my life look like on day 101? If that answer excites you, commit. If it doesn't move you, you picked the wrong one. Framework 3, the 100-rep model. This one comes from more of the business and sales world, but it applies to everything. Perform 100 intentional repetitions of a high-valued action every single day. In business, that might be 100 outreach messages, 100 conversations, 100 minutes spent on creating content, or maybe you create 100 pieces of content. In your body, it might be 100 push-ups, 100 minutes of deliberate training. In your relationship, it might be 100 minutes of intentional presence, or maybe it's 100 days of spending a 15-minute window. Could be dinner. Could be just time alone, phone down, no distractions, with your family or your kids or partner. In your faith and being, it might be 100 minutes of reading, scripture study, whatever it is for you. The unit is defined by your domain and which one you pick. The non-negotiable commitment is universal. Think about it this way. If you throw 100 punches to a punching bag for 100 days, you are not the same person who started. You have 10,000 reps on your body of punches. Your nervous system has recorded 10,000 reps, and your commitment and your character and your confidence has changed from those 10,000 reps. All the reps that you've put in are never wasted. They're building something. This is going to be hard, not because the actions are hard. They're actually pretty simple. It gets hard because simple isn't the same as easy. Let me walk you through 4 things that are going to try to knock you off. The first one is the early silence. The first 10 to 20 days of any 100-unit commitment is the hardest. Not because the effort is the greatest, but because the results are least visible. This is the back half of those 20 hours. You've started, you're moving, but the mirror hasn't changed yet. The bank account looks the same. The relationship feels the same. The business hasn't taken off yet. Don't measure outputs in the same season. Measure inputs. Did you complete your 100 units? Yes, you won the day. The results are being built under the surface. Trust the process long enough to actually see them come to fruition. The second one is disrupted day. Life is going to disrupt your schedule. Travel, illness, family emergencies, unexpected crisis. These aren't exceptions. They're a normal part of your life. Decide in advance how you will respond on the hard days, not whether you will early morning before the disruptions hit, late night after it resolves, on a plane, in a hotel room, fragmented across your day. The warrior finds a way. The drifter finds an excuse. Decide in advance which one you are. The third is plateau. Around day 20 to 40, a lot of times you hit a stretch where the results slow down dramatically. Sometimes they even stall, despite your consistent effort. This is not failure. This is the system loading. The compound effect doesn't produce linear results. That means there are long periods of drudgery, followed by rapid acceleration. If you quit during the plateau, you will never see that acceleration. But if you push through it, you get to experience the results that look like miracles to everybody else who hasn't watched all those inputs. Everyone that I've ever studied has some version of this truth. The plateau is not a signal to stop. It's a signal to hold, to continue. You are in it for the long game, so trust the process. And the fourth one is super sneaky. It is early success. Those who see results in those first 30 days can be tempted to relax, bolster their ego, to feel like they have proven the concept before they have truly gotten to the weeds of it, so they can coast. The rule of 100 is not a 30-day experiment. It's a permanent standard. The results at day 30 are a preview of what sustained execution will build. They are not the destination. All right, I want to help you build your own rule of 100. It's 5 steps. Do these today, not this week, but today. You're going to pull out your trusty notepad or your notes app on your phone. Because I don't want you to just listen to this. I want you to actually build it right now. Step 1 is identify your one thing. What is the single area of your life, if you invested 100 units of focused effort, would produce the greatest transformation? And I'm not talking about a vague service level answer here. I'm talking about the real one. The one you already know that will change your life. We work across 5 different areas of our life: our body, our faith, our being, our bond, and our build. Your body is the physical foundation. Everything else runs off. Your energy, your strength, your discipline, it's made visible. Your faith is your relationship with God, universe, or whatever you believe in. The anchor that holds when everything else gets too loud. Your being is who you are on the inside. Your mindset, your emotional health, your identity as a man. Your being is who you are on the inside. Your mindset, your identity, who you're becoming. Your bond is your relationships, your marriage, your kids, your friends, the people who feel the version of you that shows up every single day. And your build, it's your business, your mission, your purpose, your income, the vehicle you are using to create impact at the highest level. Now, here's what I want you to do. Look at those 5 areas and ask yourself honestly, which one, if you locked in for 100 days, would pull everything else forward? Because there's always one. There's always an area that when you get it right, creates a ripple effect across all the other areas. For some of you, it might be your body. Because when you get your body right, your confidence rises. Your discipline spills into your business. Your presence improves in your relationships. and your faith deepens because you're showing up to life as a version that you know you should be. For some of you, it's going to be your build, because when your purpose and your income are aligned, the financial pressure drops. You show up differently at home, at work, and with those around you. Your being stabilizes, and everything feels like it has direction again. And for some of you, it might be the bond, because there's a relationship in your life right now that is quietly costing you more energy than you're admitting. And until it changes, everything else is running with the handbrake on. For some of you, it might be your faith. Because when your foundation is solid, when you know who you are, everything else gets clearer. And for some of you, it's being, because the version of you that shows up to your body, to your relationships, to your business, and to your faith starts here. In how you think, in what you believe about yourself, in the story you're telling yourself every single morning. So write it down. Body, faith, being, bond, or build. One word, one area. What is your one thing? And don't chicken out and pick the easy one thing. Pick the thing that needs the most work. Pick the one that, if it moved, it would change everything. Step 2, you're going to define your 100 units. Now that you know your area, what does 100 units actually look like inside of it? This is where most people stay way too vague. And vague commitments create vague results. So let's get specific. If your one thing is your body, let's say it's 100 minutes of training or 100 days of zero alcohol. If your one thing is faith, is it 100 minutes of scripture, prayer, and meditation every morning before you touch your phone? If your one thing is being, is it 100 days of journaling, intentional inner work, and reading to improve your knowledge? Or 100 days of replacing a negative story with a true one? Maybe your one thing is in the bond category. Is it 100 days of intentional conversation with your partner or your kids? 100 days of showing up present instead of just showing up? If your one thing is build, is it 100 minutes of deep creation work every morning? 100 outreach messages? 100 days of consistent content that pulls your mission forward to get yourself in front of more people? Write down exactly what that 100 units looks like for you. Specific enough at the end of every day, you know whether you did it or you did not do it. We're not looking for any gray area here. No interpretation. It's either done or it's not. And step 3 is set a time. When does this happen every single day? Not sometime in the morning. What time? What location? What does the environment look like? The more consistent the context, the faster this stops requiring willpower and starts becoming automatic. Attached to an anchor, a cue, a fixed point in your day that exists before the world shows up and starts making demands on your attention. For most of you, that's in the morning, before the notifications, before the kids are up, before work starts pulling at you. That's your protected time. For others, it might be at night. But no matter what the time, where your 100 units live, write down that time. And step 4 is install accountability. Who's going to know if you skip? Because if the commitment lives only in your head, it's a negotiation away from disappearing. The rule of 100 is most powerful when it's public. Tell your accountability partner, post it to a community, tell someone who will actually call you on it, or put money on the line. You're going to give a friend $100 if you miss. The social cost of breaking it isn't the downside. It's a feature, so use it. Write down the name of the person you're going to tell and tell them. Step 5 is track it. Every day, one question. Did I execute my 100 units today? Yes or no? And at the end of the week, look at the log. How many days did you win and how many did you lose? At the end of the month, you're going to look at the results. What moved and what didn't, and what is different. Adjust the definition of your units based on the evidence and what it is telling you. Never adjust your commitment to execute it. The only adjustment is up. You cannot negotiate it down to make it easier. Your goal is not to move backwards. Your goal is to move forwards. And the only way to do that is to improve. Make it harder. Raise the standard. Make that bar harder to reach. Here's what the 5-step process actually builds. The tracking creates awareness. The awareness creates accountability. The accountability creates consistency. The consistency creates results. And the results? The results create the life you want. You just built it. You have your area. You have your 100 units defined. You have your time locked in. You have your accountability person. You have your tracking system. So the challenge isn't to figure out all of that because you've already done it. The challenge is not talking yourself out of it between now and tomorrow morning, because that's going to try to happen. You're going to finish this episode. Life is going to come back at you, and that quiet voice is going to start negotiating. Maybe start Monday. Let me think this through a little bit more. I'll set it up properly this weekend. That's the same voice that's been keeping you exactly where you are. So here's your challenge. 3 things. 1, send the message today, text, call, or tell your accountability person what your one thing is and what your 100 units look like and when you're going to start. Not tomorrow, not this weekend, but today. Because the moment you say it out loud to another person, it becomes real. And real things are harder to walk away from. 2, set tomorrow's alarm tonight. Whatever time you wrote down for your 100 units. Set the alarm before you go to sleep. Not as a reminder, as a commitment. Because those who set the alarm are already different than the ones who don't. And 3, ask yourself this question before you close your eyes tonight. If I do my 100 units every single day for the next 100 days, what does my life look like? In my body, my faith, my being, my bond, and my build. See it. Really see it. Because the vision, that specific detailed picture of who you're becoming, that's what we're protecting when the alarm goes off and the negotiation starts. Every night as you close your eyes, picture the vision of you on day 101. Keep that vision alive and picture it with great detail. That's what the 100 units are building you towards. Don't let the version of you that exists today talk you out of the version that is possible. The distance between where you are and where you want to be is not a talent gap. It's not the resources. It's almost certainly a consistency gap. And that gap exists in all 5 areas. In your body, your faith, your being, your bond, and your build. The rule of 100 is the bridge across all of that. Not built by one heroic effort, but a bridge built one plank at a time, every day, without exception, until you look up and realize you're on the other side. 100 units, every day, no exceptions. 6 months from now, one of 2 things is going to be true. Either you're going to look back at this moment, this exact moment, as the day that something shifted, the day you stopped performing and started building, or you're going to be in the exact same place, wondering why nothing has changed, having forgotten you ever heard this. The difference between those 2 outcomes isn't talent, isn't timing, it isn't luck. It's what you do tomorrow morning, and the morning after that, and the morning after that. 100 units every day, and it's your choice. If someone in your life is 3 feet from their breakthrough and doesn't know it, send them this episode, because sometimes all you need is someone who believes in what's on the other side of that drill. Standards over feelings. Ownership creates momentum. Freedom isn't found, it's built. And I will catch you on the next one.